Bengals fans, we are in a like battle against our Browns channel as we speak, a July like battle. As you can see, we got a little bit of ground we need to catch up on, but we've done a great job so far throughout the month liking those videos, but we can do an even better job. So make sure you hit that thumbs up icon on today's show. The more you guys like our videos, the more videos we can make. So it really helps us out. So help us catch the Browns and also help us just get more likes on our videos overall so we can keep making Cincinnati Bengals YouTube videos. Today Nation, what's going on? Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. Thank you so much for joining us on today's show. Got an exciting show planned out for everybody. Obviously, we've been talking about the ESPN rankings that are coming out from executives, coaches, and scouts from around the league. And today we got our quarterback rankings. It's kind of felt like it's all led up to this moment. We've been excited about seeing those rankings, so we'll dive into that and see exactly where Joe Burrow lands. Also, we talked about on yesterday's show that T Higgins is officially not going to reach an extension with the Cincinnati Bengals and will be playing under the franchise tag. I will explain to you guys why Cincinnati handled this situation correctly. And also some more rankings we have to get to. CBS Sports released their head coaching rankings, and we'll see exactly where Zac Taylor landed. I mean, just a little spoiler, he gets a little disrespected in my opinion on these rankings. But first, we'll start with Joe Burrow. And like I said, NFL executive scouts and coaches around the league ranked their quarterbacks, and Joe Burrow was number 2. And it was almost a relief to see this, right? Because there was a little bit of worry that he was going to get docked for the injury last year. The calf strain and, of course, the wrist injury that ended his season. But he stays in the correct spot, and they put him at number 2, right where he belongs. Let's take a look at the top 10 right now. Obviously, number 1, Patrick Mahomes. You can't really dispute that whatsoever, right? Joe Burrow right there in the number 2 spot. We've been saying that all offseason here on Bengals Breakdown. And ESPN and the scouts and the executives and the coaches, they agree with us. They got Burrow at that 2 spot. Allen is 3, Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills, and Lamar Jackson is 4. I believe they got the top 4 perfect in this from this point of view. You can make some arguments after that, but top 4, that's pretty much exactly how I would have it. Looking at number 5 there, Matthew Stafford, that seems a bit aggressive. You know, he's getting up there in age, and he's certainly capable of playing really good football, but I think 5 seems a little extreme. I probably would have Justin Herbert bumped up to that 5 spot. I think Herbert's going to have a great year with Jim Harbaugh. Stroud at 7, had a great rookie season. It seems a little early. I think we can pump the brakes a little bit on that. But I need to see it one more year, and if he does it again, then I'm willing to put him up this high in the rankings. Number 8, Aaron Rodgers. That's kind of a wild card spot, right? I think at any point he is able to go out there and be 1 on this list. But being 40 years of age, coming off an Achilles, you just never really know. So I think it is appropriate to still have him in the top 10. Like I said, kind of a wild card in that area. And as far as the 9-10 spot, I find it hard to believe you're not seeing a Trevor Lawrence or a Jalen Hurts on this list. But like I said, the top 4, and most importantly for us here at Bengals Breakdown, the number 2 spot is correct. And that is the one word that comes to my mind when I saw this list. It's correct. That's what I think about when you say Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the NFL. Like I said, we've been saying it all off season long. The playoff wins prove it. The fourth quarter comebacks prove it. All kinds of things show up to the point that Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the NFL. But I want to know what you guys think with the pinned comment of today's video. What is your one-word reaction to Joe Burrow being the number 2 ranked quarterback in ESPN's rankings? Like I said, my one word was correct. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know what your one-word reaction is in the comments section. Here's what an anonymous NFL executive had to say on Joe Burrow. He said, Burrow is still probably the most consistent of all the guys. A pure thrower who's in complete command of the offense and comes up big in big moments. He knows when to attack and be aggressive versus when to take the easy yards. And the dude is so tough. Here's what Joe Burrow has done from a statistical standpoint throughout his career in Cincinnati. But as I've said before, it's not the numbers that make him special. You really got to use the eye test when it comes to Joe Burrow because it's those big moments, those third downs, those fourth downs late in the game. That's when he's at his best. and it's when he needs to stand there and get rocked in the pocket and be able to get right back up and make the next play. That's probably my favorite thing about Joe Burrow. Obviously, we all hold our breath a little bit when he gets hit, but I love seeing him pop right back up. I don't think anybody in the league does it quite like Joe Burrow. Obviously, the issue with him is health, and we'll see if he can get back to that true form that he was a couple of years ago and if he's able to stay healthy throughout the 2024 season. All right, so I can see some people making some arguments about Burrow potentially being a little too high, and this is one of the two guys that you could argue is ahead of Joe Burrow, but I'll tell you why he is not. Look, Josh Allen obviously is an unbelievable player, but he's had 6 seasons in the NFL, and I think we can all agree he should have played in at least one AFC title game by now, and he has not done that. And he always kind of leaves you wanting a little bit more. Certainly he's miraculous and he's brilliant, but you're always like, I feel like you could give me just a little bit more and your team could ultimately be a little bit better. And the big thing for him, why he's not number 2, it's the turnover issue, right? He's got 78 interceptions and 59 fumbles since 2018. For some perspective there, Patrick Mahomes has 62 interceptions and 36 fumbles. So that's obviously a massive difference there. But there is obviously a lot to like about Josh Allen. He's an elite leader, right? He's a great guy to have in your locker room, leading your franchise. He's great at the podium. He's just a teammate that you really want to be around. And he had an 81.2 QBR in the fourth quarter last year, which led the NFL. So I think it's only a matter of time before Josh Allen kind of breaks through to that next level, but he's by no means where Joe Burrow is right now. The other guy that you could argue is ahead of Joe Burrow would be Lamar Jackson. Now, when you look at the numbers here, in the regular season, Lamar Jackson just wins. That's what he does, right? And he has the edge over Burrow in terms of head-to-head matchups, going 4-1 against Joe Burrow. But the big kicker against Lamar is his performance in the playoffs. Not only is his record 2-4, but I think, and you hate to put just one game on the guy, but when you think about how he played in the AFC Championship against Kansas City last year, I think that's just kind of a microcosm of what you get from Lamar Jackson. I mean, he seemed a little bit rattled. The moment seemed a little bit too big. He was making some mistakes, and he really lacked poise, and you saw that throughout his whole team. If you remember the Zay Flowers situation where he just completely melted down. That kind of is something that you saw with like the Marvin Lewis Bengals, just kind of a meltdown. It'd be hard for me to believe that Joe Burrow would allow that kind of meltdown to happen to his team, and that's really the biggest reason why I'm knocking Lamar Jackson here and have Joe Burrow ahead of him, certainly. But my biggest takeaway is they got this right. Like I said, I was a little bit worried they were going to potentially knock him for the injury. I think, if he were to get hurt again this year, I obviously don't even want to put that out into the universe, but they probably would knock him for next year. But right now, they still got him at that 2 spot, and it's up to him to try to stay healthy. Like I said, ultimately, it circles back to Burrow's health. If you're not out there, it's hard for people to evaluate you, so he certainly needs a very healthy 2024 season to stay where he is at currently in the quarterback rankings. Moving on to T Higgins here. Like we said, the Bengals are holding firm on T Higgins. They didn't, it seemed like their plan the whole time was to go with the franchise tag and not reach an extension with him, and that's what's happened. And we'll take a look here at what Bleacher Report said on the T Higgins situation. They said tagging Higgins without then extending him was a calculated risk by the Bengals, but it's one that makes plenty of sense. On one hand, they run the risk of losing the 2-time 1,000-yard receiver in 2025 free agency for nothing more than a potential compensation pick. On the other hand, they head into the 2024 with options on how to handle the future. And that is the biggest thing for me. Cincinnati has options when it comes to T Higgins. Let's say for whatever reason the Bengals are not in contention. God forbid Joe Burrow gets hurt or they're just not winning football games. Then they could be a point in a position where they could deal him to a contender prior to the trade deadline and be able to get lots of draft compensation. Obviously, hopefully that doesn't happen, but it's just a possibility that the Bengals have working for them. And also, what if he's not brilliant this year, right? What if he goes out there and doesn't perform the way he has been throughout his career? Well, then his market value is going to go down. And then potentially the Bengals could be able to afford him if teams aren't throwing a lot of money at him like they would be if he was a free agent this offseason. And then again, what if he is brilliant? Well, let me tell you, if he's brilliant, That means Joe Burrow's probably out there being brilliant. And if those things are both happening, the Bengals are probably going to the AFC Championship at worst. So it's really a win-win-win-win situation for Cincinnati when it comes to how they handle Tee Higgins. Obviously, if he's no longer a Bengal after 2024, that'll be sad. But from the organizational standpoint, I think they've handled this pretty much perfectly to this point. Once again, your opportunity to get involved with our show and head on down in the comments section and let us know your thoughts. Did the Bengals make the right call with Tee Higgins? Type Y for yes or type N for no in the comments section. Really would like to hear what you guys have to say about this. So get involved in the comments section right now of today's show. And our last topic point of today's program, where does Zac Taylor rank? CBS released their head coaching rankings and had Zac Taylor at number 14. I was really happy with where ESPN had Burrow. Complete opposite feelings here for how Zac Taylor got treated over at CBS Sports. But before we fully dive into that, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. The Amarius Mims rookie jerseys are available now. Make sure you go and get those. Chatsports.com/Amarius Mims. That link will be in the comments and the description of today's show. So show your support for the Bengals first-round draft pick and go get you an Amarius Mims rookie jersey. All right, so here's what CBS had to say in terms of their top 10 head coaches. Look, one, again, can't dispute that at all, Andy Reid. I would flip-flop Shanahan and McVay personally. Don't have a major issue with that, however. Harbaugh, think he's in a fine spot. LaFleur seems a bit aggressive. I'm really, really high on the Green Bay Packers this year, but that seems a little bit aggressive putting him at that 5 spot. Tomlin, obviously, he's accomplished. He's been around forever. But it's getting to the point where it's like, all right, what are you going to do? You just going to keep having a winning season and then that's going to be it? Or are you going to be able to take the next step for your franchise? Harbaugh, I think he's going to vault his way back onto this list eventually. But, putting him there right out of college seems a bit bold. Dan Campbell, I don't understand how you got Dan Campbell ahead of Zac Taylor. I am a fan of Dan Campbell. I think a lot of people are. But the reason they didn't advance to the Super Bowl last year was because of Dan Campbell. I understand, that aggressive style that he has is part of what makes Detroit Detroit. But still, I wouldn't even consider comparing him to a guy like Zac Taylor. And Sean McDermott, are you serious? He's really just held Buffalo back. Like we said, it's inexcusable that Josh Allen hasn't played in an AFC title game. And I blame Sean McDermott a heck of a lot more than I blame Josh Allen for that. And if you got Kevin Stefanski in your top 10, you're just out of your mind. You kidding me? What has he done? He rarely goes to the playoffs. His team's a mess. They always underachieve people. Oh, Cleveland. It's Cleveland at the end of the day. You got to be kidding me if you got Kevin Stefanski in your top 10. Moving on to where Zac Taylor is in this list. McDaniel. Obviously like McDaniel, but, the success in the playoffs hasn't been there. And 12 and 13, I just think those guys haven't, proved enough yet. Like DeMeco Ryans coming off year one. Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, they won a playoff game. But look what Zac Taylor's done. Zac Taylor has won 5 playoff games. So, I felt pretty disrespected by this list. I would have Zac Taylor well in my top 10, probably in that 6-7 range, to be honest with you. But, yeah, this is what CBS Sports had to say. Once again, you can hop in the comments section and let us know where you rank Zac Taylor. 1 to 32. I want to know what you guys think. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm hyping him up a little bit too much, but I think he's well inside that top 10. Give me a number right now down in the comments section. So this is kind of the rundown with Taylor. He's entering his 6th season. When you look at the record, obviously considerably under 500, 37-44-1. But the playoff record is 5-2. And you have to understand the first 2 years of the Zac Taylor era. What he inherited in Cincinnati was awful. And they went 2-14 his first year. But that allowed them to get Joe Burrow in the following year's draft. And then that year they were on a pace to win several more games than they did. Obviously, Joe Burrow blows out his knee and they go 4-11-1. Now I have to credit the Bengals front office a lot here because I think a lot of front offices around the league would have got rid of him. But they said, you know what? We're going to give Zac Taylor another year. What happened? He leads the Bengals to the Super Bowl. And that playoff record, 5-2, I thought Zac Taylor in every playoff game, he puts the Bengals in a great spot to win. And, Yeah, I think that's where he's at his best. Kind of we talk about that with Joe Burrow, the big games, the playoff games, the primetime games. That's where he's at his best. That's where their head coach Zac Taylor is at his best as well. And he's completely, done a 180 on what the Bengals used to do in those big time moments. So I certainly would have Zac Taylor well inside my top 10. Make sure you guys are subscribed to our channel here at Bengals Breakdown. Training camp is on the horizon, and we're going to have some great content for you guys when that rolls around. Can't wait to fully dive in to all those position battles, and we'll really see where everything stands here in a couple of weeks. So make sure you hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV.